hottest rock groups around, owes a lot of its success to the antics, acrobatics, and lyrics of lead singer David Lee Roth. Not long ago, when he was between tours, I got the chance to talk with him about his music, his career, and his incredible energy.
David Lee Roth smiled on live TV, but behind that smile, one of rock's biggest breakups was already waiting to explode. In 1985, David Lee Roth appeared on Good Morning America with the kind of confidence that only a true rock and roll frontman could carry. This was not just a simple morning television interview. This was Diamond Dave at one of the most fascinating moments of his career, stepping into a polished TV studio while still carrying the wild energy of a sold-out arena. At that time, Van Halen was one of the biggest rock bands in the world, and Roth was more than just the lead singer. He was the attitude, the color, the danger, and the smile that made the band feel larger than life. But when people look back at that Good Morning America moment now, it feels different. It feels like history was quietly happening in front of everyone. On the surface, Roth looked relaxed, playful, and
what we do is being together and communicating that music from each one of us to each other, the four of us. You all are invited. It's the whole experience of being together, of creating together, performing together, arguing together. That whole camaraderie is intrinsic to the music. There would be no Van Halen without that.
What do you think is the most unique thing that Van Halen brings to rock and roll? Why are you different?
I think Van Halen can deal storm and thunder. Van Halen can go down to the beach with a sword in one hand and a torch in the other and still inject a sense of humor.
Completely in control. He joked with ease, spoke with charm, and turned an ordinary interview into a performance. But behind the bright lights and the smooth television setup, something bigger was building. The rock world was changing, Van Halen's future was becoming uncertain, and Roth was beginning to look like a man ready to step into his own spotlight. That is what makes this interview so powerful today. It is not only about what he said, it is about the timing, the attitude, and the feeling that something major was coming. David Lee Roth had a rare gift. He did not simply answer questions, he created moments. Every smile felt calculated, every pause felt dramatic, and every sentence carried the personality of someone who understood exactly how fame worked. Most musicians appeared on morning shows to promote a project, stay polite, and move on. Roth treated the room like a stage. He brought rock star energy into daytime television, and even in a calm studio environment, he still seemed unpredictable. That was his power. You never knew whether he would make you laugh, shock you, or say something that would be repeated for years. For fans watching in 1985, it may have looked like another fun interview with a famous singer, but years later, it feels like a warning sign from rock history. Roth was standing at a crossroads, caught between the band that made him famous and the solo image he was already building. His confidence was not random. It was the confidence of a performer who knew he could survive outside the group. He had the voice, the look, the humor, and the fearless personality to keep people watching. That is why this interview still matters. It captures David Lee Roth before one of the biggest changes of his life, at a time when fans did not yet fully understand how close the end of an era really was. Van Halen would continue, Roth would continue, and rock music would continue. But the magic of that original chapter would never feel exactly the same again. This Good Morning America appearance now stands as a time capsule of fame, tension, and transformation. It shows a man smiling for the cameras while the future of one of rock's most iconic bands was hanging in the background. But what makes the moment even more interesting is how calm everything appeared. There was no dramatic announcement, no obvious warning, and no open sign that a major shift was nearby. That contrast pulls viewers in. They see the jokes, the confidence, and the charm, but they also know what history revealed later. Roth was not just promoting himself, he was showing that he could command attention without the rest of the band beside him. That alone gave the interview a different kind of weight. He understood image, timing, and personality in a way that made him feel almost impossible to replace. While other artists tried to protect a serious image, Roth leaned into humor and spectacle. He made fame look fun, but also dangerous, because there was always the sense that anything could happen next. In many ways, this interview became more powerful with time. At the moment, it was entertainment. Decades later, it feels like a clue. It gives fans a chance to study his body language, his confidence, and the strange calm before a legendary rock chapter changed forever. David Lee Roth did not just give an interview that day. He gave fans a glimpse of the storm before it arrived. A moment where entertainment, confidence, mystery, and rock history all collided on live television.